The night of the mating ceremony was supposed to be the beginning of everything. Seren had stood before the court of Valdron in her finest gown, heart hammering against her ribs as the Alpha King walked toward her. Varun, the most powerful wolf in 5 kingdoms. And somehow, impossibly, he had chosen her. A shadow blood. An orphan with magic so feared that mothers warned children to stay away from her kind. She should have known it was too beautiful to be true, because when the moment came for him to speak the claiming words, when his hand should have reached for hers, he turned. He turned to another. Lysera. Beautiful, golden Lysera with her noble blood and unblemished lineage. Seren felt the bond she had dared to believe in shatter inside her. The warmth drained from her chest and left nothing but cold. The bond was gone, or so she believed. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply stepped backward into the shadows and let them swallow her whole. By morning, she was gone. No trace, no trail. Nothing but an empty room and a kingdom thrown into chaos. They said the Alpha King lost his mind that night. They said he tore through the castle with his bare hands, howling her name until his voice broke. They said he sent every soldier, every tracker, and every wolf in Valdron to find the woman who had vanished like smoke. What Seren did not know, what she could not have known, was that everything she saw that night was a lie, and the king would burn the world to ash to prove it. The great hall of Valdron had never been so full. Wolves from every corner of the 5 kingdoms had come to witness the impossible. The Alpha King, unmarried at 30 winters, had finally selected a mate, and he had chosen her. Seren still could not believe it. She stood in the alcove behind the main doors, fingers trembling against the silver fabric of her gown, trying to steady her breathing. In moments, those doors would open. She would walk down the long aisle between hundreds of watching eyes, and at the end, Varun would be waiting. Varun. Even his name made her pulse stutter. She had first seen him 6 months ago when he had visited the borderlands where she lived in exile. A shadow blood had no place in proper society, but she had been permitted to work as a healer in the small village of Thornwick, far from anyone who mattered. Then the king had arrived with his retinue, injured from a hunt gone wrong. No other healer would touch the wound. It was too deep, too infected. But Seren had stepped forward because she could not watch anyone die, not even a stranger. She had used her shadow magic to pull the poison from his blood, her hands glowing with that eerie dark light that made most wolves recoil in fear. He had not recoiled. He had watched her with those piercing gray eyes and said nothing. When she finished, when she stepped back expecting disgust or dismissal, he had simply said, "What is your name?" "Seren," she had whispered. "Seren," he had repeated, as if tasting the word. "I will remember." 3 weeks later, a royal summons arrived. The Alpha King had selected her as his intended mate. The village had erupted in shock. Shadow bloods were not chosen. Shadow bloods were tolerated at best, hunted at worst. And yet here was the most powerful wolf in existence, claiming he wanted her. Now she stood on the threshold of becoming his queen. The doors began to open. Seren forced her feet to move. The aisle stretched before her like a river of candlelight. Faces turning on either side, whispers rising like wind through autumn leaves. She heard them. Of course she heard them. A shadow blood? Is he mad? Look at her eyes. You can see the darkness in them. The council will never accept this. Seren kept her gaze fixed straight ahead. At the end of the aisle, elevated on a platform draped in black and silver, stood the Alpha King. Varun was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell past his jaw, and a face that could have been carved from stone. Beautiful in the way a blade was beautiful. Cold. Lethal. Perfect. But when their eyes met, something in his expression shifted, softened. And Seren felt the bond between them pulse with warmth. It is real, she thought. He truly wants me. She climbed the 3 steps to the platform. Varun extended his hand and she took it, feeling the strength in his fingers as they closed around hers. His skin was cool. Not cold, but cooler than she expected. She filed that detail away for later. The high priest began the ceremony. Ancient words in the old tongue, blessings upon the union, invocations of the moon goddess. Seren barely heard any of it. She was too aware of Varun beside her, too aware of the bond humming between them like a plucked string. Then it came. The moment of claiming. Alpha King Varun of Valdron, the priest intoned. Speak now your choice. Speak the name of the one you claim as mate, as queen, as the other half of your soul. Silence fell over the hall. Every breath held, every eye fixed upon the king. Seren looked up at him, heart pounding, waiting to hear her name fall from his lips. Varun opened his mouth, and then something changed. A flicker in his eyes, a twitch at the corner of his jaw. He turned his head, slowly, deliberately, away from her. Lysara, he said. The word cracked through the hall like a thunderclap. Seren's entire body went rigid. She must have misheard, she must have. But then she followed his gaze, and she saw her. Lysara. Standing at the edge of the platform in a gown of pale gold, her face arranged in perfect, practiced surprise. As if she had not expected this. As if she were not already moving forward to take Seren's place. And then Seren felt it. The bond. The precious, fragile thread she had clung to for months. The proof that she was wanted, that she mattered, and that she was finally enough for someone. It shattered inside her. All the warmth, all the hope, all the fragile belief that she finally mattered to someone, destroyed in a single word. Or so she believed. He had chosen another. In front of everyone, she had been a placeholder. A shadow blood paraded for show until the real choice could be made. How the court must be laughing. How Lysara must be savoring this moment. Poor, foolish Seren. Did she really believe a king would want something like her? The whispers erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Somewhere, a woman laughed. The sound cut through Seren like a blade. She did not cry. She would not give them that satisfaction. Instead, she took one step back. Then another. The shadows at the edge of the platform reached for her like old friends, and Seren let them take her. One moment she was there. The next, she was gone. Behind her, she heard someone scream her name. It sounded like Varun. But that made no sense. Why would he call for her when he had just cast her aside? She did not look back. The shadows closed around her, and Seren vanished from the great hall of Valdron. She would not let them see her break. Varun felt her disappear. One moment, Seren's hand was slipping from his grasp. The next, an emptiness tore through his chest so violently that he staggered. The mate bond, the one he had felt growing for months, the one he had nurtured with every stolen glance and careful word, it screamed inside him like a wounded animal. Seren! He spun around, searching the platform, the aisle, and the alcoves. Nothing. She was gone. Swallowed by those shadows she commanded as easily as breathing. The hall erupted into chaos. Nobles shouted. Guards drew weapons. Someone was yelling about protocol, about the ceremony, about the insult of a rejected mate fleeing in public. Varun heard none of it. He was already moving, shoving past the priest, leaping down from the platform. "Find her!" he roared. The command carried the weight of an alpha's will, impossible to disobey. Wolves scattered in every direction, their fear palpable in the air. But Lysara stepped into his path, her golden gown swirling around her ankles. "My king, please, let her go." She was clearly overwhelmed by the honor of "Move." The single word came out as a growl, barely human. His wolf was surging beneath his skin, desperate to break free, to hunt, to chase. Lysara's composure cracked. Just for an instant, a flash of something cold and satisfied flickered behind her eyes before she stepped aside with a graceful bow. Varun did not notice. He was already running. The next hours blurred into a nightmare. Varun tore through the castle himself, checking every room, every corridor, every shadow-darkened corner where she might have hidden. He sent his wolves into the city, into the forests beyond, into the villages that dotted the roads leading away from Valdron. He commanded birds released with messages. He threatened trackers with death if they did not find her trail. But there was no trail. Shadowbloods did not leave trails. They moved through darkness itself, stepping from one shadow to another across impossible distances. Seren could be anywhere by now, across the kingdom, across the continent. Gone. By dawn, Varun stood in her empty chambers. The room still smelled like her, lavender and night blooming jasmine and something darker beneath. That strange, intoxicating scent that marked her as Shadowblood. Her things were still here, a brush on the vanity, a book open on the nightstand, a ribbon she had worn in her hair yesterday. She had not packed. She had not planned. She had simply run. His hands shook as he picked up the ribbon, pressing it to his face, breathing in the last traces of her scent. The mate bond pulsed weakly in his chest. Still there? Still connected, but strained, stretched thin across whatever distance now separated them. "Why?" he whispered. "Why did you run from me?" He had chosen her. He had spoken her name. He had looked into her eyes and felt the bond lock into place with absolute certainty. Serene, his mate, his queen, the only woman he had ever wanted. So why had she looked at him with such devastation? Why had her face crumpled as if he had driven a knife into her heart? Why had she stepped back into the shadows as if escaping a monster? "Your Majesty." Lord Aldrich appeared in the doorway, the king's most trusted advisor. His weathered face was grim. "The council demands your presence. There are questions about what happened, about the Lady Lysara and the—" "I did not choose Lysara." Varen's voice was ice. "I have never wanted Lysara. I spoke Seren's name. I claimed Seren as my mate." Aldrich's brow furrowed. "My king, forgive me, but I was standing 3 paces away. I heard you say—" "I said Seren." Varun turned, and something in his expression made the older man take a step back. "I would stake my life upon it. I would stake my throne. Something is wrong, Aldrich. Something happened in that hall that I do not understand. The Shadowblood fled of her own will. Perhaps she simply—" "Do not finish that sentence." Silence. Varun looked down at the ribbon in his hands. So small, so fragile. Like her. Like the bond between them that she had somehow believed he had severed. "I will find her," he said quietly. "If it takes the rest of my life. If I have to tear apart every shadow in every corner of this world, I will find her, and I will understand why she ran, and whatever made her believe I would betray her." His grip tightened on the ribbon. "I will destroy it." Outside the window, the sun rose over Valdron. But for Varun, the world had gone dark the moment she disappeared. He would not rest until she was back in his arms. 3 months. 3 months of running. 3 months of hiding in villages so small they did not appear on any map, sleeping in barns and abandoned cottages, trading her healing skills for bread and silence. 3 months of feeling the mate bond stretch thinner and thinner until some days Seren wondered if she had imagined it entirely. She had stopped in a town called Mirren's Hollow, nestled in the mountains at the far northern edge of the kingdom. The people here were hardy, suspicious of outsiders, and blessedly uninterested in the politics of the royal court. They did not know her face. They did not know her name. To them, she was just another traveling healer, touched by some minor magic, useful enough to tolerate. It was almost peaceful. Almost. Tonight, Seren sat in the small room above the tavern she had rented for the week, staring at the single candle on the table. The shadows danced around her, beckoning. They always beckoned. Her power had grown stronger since she fled Valdron, as if the grief had fed it. She could step farther now, stay hidden longer, become almost invisible when she needed to. But she could not outrun the dreams. Every night she saw him, Varun, standing on that platform, turning away from her, speaking another woman's name. And every night she woke with tears on her face and that awful hollow ache where the bond should have been. "You are a fool," she told herself for the 1,000th time. "You always knew you were not enough. You just did not want to believe it." A knock at the door made her freeze. No one knew she was here. She had been so careful. She had used no magic in public, kept her head down, avoided eye contact. The knock came again, firmer. Seren rose silently, letting the shadows wrap around her like a cloak. If it was trouble, she would vanish. She was good at that now. Vanishing. She cracked the door open, and her heart stopped. Varun stood in the hallway. He looked terrible, gaunt, hollow-cheeked, dark circles carved beneath those gray eyes that had once looked at her with such warmth. His clothes were travel-stained, his hair tangled, his jaw shadowed with weeks of stubble. But his eyes burned with something that made her step back. "Found you," he rasped. The word broke something inside her. She tried to close the door, but he was faster, his hand catching the frame, his body filling the doorway. "No." His voice cracked. "Please, Seren, please do not run again. I cannot survive it again. Let go." Her own voice came out steadier than she felt. "You made your choice. You do not get to follow me." "My choice?" He laughed, and the sound was broken glass. "I chose you. I have only ever chosen you. Why did you run?" Seren stared at him. The audacity of the question made her anger flare hot and bright. "I was standing right in front of you," she hissed. "I watched you turn to her. I heard you say her name. I felt the bond break, Varun. Do not stand here and lie to my face." Varun went pale, paler than he already was, which should have been impossible. "What? You claimed Lysera. The entire court witnessed it. I was humiliated in front of 500 wolves, discarded like I was nothing, and you have the cruelty to chase me across the kingdom and pretend you do not remember?" "I remember everything." He stepped forward, and she stepped back, shadows coiling at her feet. "I remember looking at you. I remember saying your name. I remember feeling the bond lock into place and knowing that I would spend the rest of my life thanking the gods for bringing you to me." "Lies. It is not a lie." His voice shook. "Seren, something happened in that hall. Something neither of us understands. Because I swear to you on my life, I spoke your name. I claimed you. Only you." The certainty in his voice made her hesitate. Just for a moment. "Then how did I hear Lysara?" she whispered. "How did I feel the bond break?" Varun's jaw tightened. "That is what I intend to find out." He extended his hand, not demanding, not commanding, just offering. "Come back with me. Please, help me understand what happened, because something is very wrong, and I think someone wanted you gone. Someone wanted you to believe I betrayed you." Seren looked at his outstretched hand. She thought of the nights she had spent weeping, the endless running, the hollow emptiness where love had been. "Why should I trust you?" she asked. "Because the bond is still there." His eyes locked onto hers. "Can you not feel it? Stretched, damaged, but still there. If I had truly chosen another, it would be gone entirely. You know this, Seren. You know it." She did know. That was the worst part. She had felt the bond weaken, not sever. Every night she had reached for it in the darkness, confused by its persistence. If he had truly rejected her, The bond should have died, but it had not. The candle on the table flickered. The shadows pressed close. And Seren realized that everything she had believed for 3 months might have been a lie. The question was, whose lie? One chance, she said slowly. You have one chance to prove what you say is true. And if I discover you are deceiving me again? She let the shadows surge around her, dark and dangerous. I will disappear so thoroughly that not even the gods will find me. Varun exhaled. Relief and pain and desperate hope flickered across his face. That is all I ask, he said. One chance. He extended his hand again. This time, Seren took it. The journey back to Valdron took 6 days. 6 days of riding through mountain passes and dense forests, sleeping in roadside inns where Seren kept her hood drawn low and her shadows close. 6 days of watching Varun from the corner of her eye, searching for any crack in his story, any hint that he was lying. She found none. What she found instead was a man unraveling. Varun barely slept. She heard him pacing outside her door at night, heard him talking to his guards in hushed, urgent tones. He ate little, and what he did eat seemed forced. The hollows beneath his cheekbones had deepened since she first saw him in Mirren's hollow, and there was a tremor in his hands that had not been there before. On the 4th night, she woke to find him sitting outside her room, his back against the wall, his head tipped back, eyes closed. Not sleeping, just waiting, guarding. You should rest, she said quietly. His eyes opened, gray as storm clouds, filled with something she did not want to name. I cannot, he said. Every time I close my eyes, I see you disappearing into those shadows. I hear the silence afterward. 3 months of that silence, Seren. 3 months of not knowing if you were alive or dead. She had no response to that, so she simply sat down across from him, and they watched the darkness together until dawn. On the 6th day, the spires of Valdron appeared on the horizon. Seren's stomach twisted into knots. She had fled this place in shame. Returning felt like walking back into a nightmare. The court will not welcome me, she said. The court will do as I command. They saw you choose Lysara. Varun's jaw tightened. Then they will see me correct that mistake. The gates opened before them, and word spread like wildfire. By the time they reached the castle steps, a crowd had gathered. Nobles, servants, guards, all staring at the shadow blood who had dared to return. Seren kept her spine straight, her face blank. She would not show weakness. Not here. Not again. But then Varun did something unexpected. He dismounted first, walked to her horse and extended his hand to help her down. A gesture of respect. Of care. In full view of everyone watching. My king! Lord Aldrich hurried forward, his face pale. This is most irregular. The council has questions. The Lady Lysara has been expecting... Lysara has been expecting nothing because Lysara has no claim on me. Varun's voice carried across the courtyard, silencing every whisper. There has been a grave misunderstanding. A manipulation. And I intend to expose it. He turned to face the crowd, one hand still holding Seren's. 3 months ago, I stood before this court to claim my mate. My true mate. The woman whose hand I hold now. His grip tightened on her fingers. I spoke her name. Seren. I felt the bond lock into place, and yet somehow, impossibly, many of you heard a different name. You believed I had chosen another. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I am telling you now, before all of Valdron, that Seren is and always has been my chosen mate. Whatever you thought you witnessed was a lie. Someone deceived us all. His eyes swept the gathered faces, cold and dangerous. And I will find out who. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, from the back of the crowd, a figure stepped forward. Golden hair, pale gown, a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. "Lysara, my king," she said sweetly, "I am as confused as anyone by these accusations. I never sought the honor you describe. I was merely present when you spoke my name." She pressed a hand to her heart. "If there has been some mistake, I am the first to wish it corrected." Seren watched her carefully. The words were perfect. The tone was humble. But something flickered behind those pale blue eyes, something sharp and satisfied. "You are most gracious, Lady Lysara." Varun's voice was ice. "I am certain the investigation will clear your name entirely." Lysara's smile faltered, just for an instant. "Investigation, my king? Did I not make myself clear?" Varun released Seren's hand and stepped toward Lysara. Every wolf in the courtyard tensed. Someone used magic that night. Someone manipulated what this court saw and heard. That is treason. And treason is punishable by death. Lysara's composure cracked, her scent, carefully controlled until now, spiked with fear. "I would never," she began. "Then you have nothing to worry about." Varun smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You are confined to your chambers until the investigation is complete. Guards." Two soldiers stepped forward. Lysara looked between them, her mask slipping further, rage and panic warring on her face. "You cannot do this. My father is—" "Your father is not the king." Varun cut her off. "I am. Take her." Seren watched Lysara being escorted away. The other woman's eyes found hers as she passed, and in that gaze, Seren saw pure hatred. Not the hatred of an innocent woman wrongly accused. The hatred of someone whose careful plans were falling apart. "She did something," Seren whispered. "I do not know how, but she did something." Varen's hand found hers again. "I know," he said quietly, "and I will prove it." But as they walked into the castle together, Seren could not shake the feeling that Lysara was not the only player in this game. Someone had helped her. Someone with power enough to manipulate what an entire court perceived. And that someone was still out there. 3 days passed. 3 days of interrogations, investigations, and magical examinations. The court mages combed through the great hall, searching for traces of whatever spell had been cast. Lysara maintained her innocence from her confined chambers, weeping and protesting to anyone who would listen. Seren stayed in the rooms Varun had given her, not her old chambers. These were connected to the king's own suite by a private door. A statement of intent that set the court buzzing with fresh scandal. She did not see Varun much during the days. He was consumed by the investigation, meeting with advisors, questioning servants, reviewing every detail of that night. But every evening, without fail, he came to her. The first night, he simply sat with her by the fire. Neither of them spoke. The bond hummed between them, damaged but present, like a healing wound. The second night, he brought wine. They talked for hours about nothing important. Her childhood in Thornwick, his years of training to become king, the loneliness they had both carried for so long. "I never wanted the throne," he admitted, staring into the flames. "My brother was supposed to inherit. He was better suited for it. Kinder. More patient." "What happened to him?" "He died. A hunting accident when I was 19. Varen's voice went flat. "At least, that is what they called it. I have never been certain." Seren studied his profile in the firelight. "You think someone killed him?" "I think my family has enemies I do not fully understand. Enemies who have been working against us for generations." He turned to look at her. "I think you disappearing was part of something larger, Seren, and it terrifies me that I almost lost you to it." She reached out without thinking, her fingers brushing against his. The contact sent warmth flooding through the bond. His breath caught. "You did not lose me," she said quietly. "I am here. You are here." he repeated, as if convincing himself. You are here. The third night, everything changed. Seren was preparing for bed when the connecting door opened. Varun stood in the threshold, dressed simply in a loose shirt and dark trousers. His feet were bare. His hair was damp, as if he had just bathed. And his eyes held a question he did not voice. The bond, he said finally. It is healing. I can feel it growing stronger every day. But it is still incomplete, still wounded. Seren's heart hammered. She knew what he was asking. The physical claiming, the bite that would seal the bond permanently, merge their souls in a way that words alone could not. We do not have to, he added quickly. Not until you trust me fully. Not until you are certain. I will wait as long as you need. I just wanted you to know that when you are ready, I will be here. She should have sent him away. She should have demanded more time, more proof, and more certainty. But looking at him standing there, vulnerable and wanting and so clearly hers, Seren realized she did not want to wait. Close the door, she said. His eyes widened. Seren, you do not have to. I know I do not have to. She crossed the room until she stood before him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his skin. I want to. For a long moment he simply stared at her. Then his hands cupped her face with aching gentleness, and he kissed her. The bond exploded between them. Not with pain, but with something vast and overwhelming. A current of emotion so powerful that Seren gasped against his mouth. She felt his longing, his guilt, and his desperate relief at having found her. She felt the 3 months of torment he had endured, the sleepless nights, the hollow grief. And beneath it all, she felt his love. Unmistakable. Undeniable. He had not betrayed her. The bond did not lie. Varun lifted her easily, carrying her toward the bed. His mouth traced a path down her throat, and she arched into him, her fingers tangling in his hair. The shadows in the room stirred with her pleasure, dancing along the walls. I have wanted this, he murmured against her collarbone. Wanted you, since the moment you put your hands on my wound and saved my life. Then take me, she breathed. Make me yours. He did. Their joining was slow at first, careful. He treated her as if she might break, his hands reverent against her skin, his mouth worshipful. But when she pulled him closer, demanded more, the careful restraint shattered. They came together with desperate intensity, the bond singing between them with every touch. Seren felt the pieces of herself that had fractured 3 months ago finally beginning to mend. She was wanted. She was chosen. She was his. And when the moment came, when his teeth grazed the sensitive skin at the junction of her neck and shoulder, she tilted her head in offering. Claim me, she whispered. The bite was sharp and sweet. The bond snapped into place with such force that they both cried out, and in that moment, Seren felt everything. Every corner of his soul laid bare before her. But she also felt something else, something cold and dark lurking beneath the warmth of their connection. A shadow inside him that he had hidden from everyone. She pulled back, searching his face. His eyes were closed, his expression blissful. He had not noticed her discovery. Varun, she said slowly, what is wrong with you? His eyes opened. For an instant, fear flickered through the bond. Raw, primal. Then he smiled and kissed her forehead. Nothing, he murmured. Nothing is wrong. Sleep now. But even as his arms wrapped around her, even as his heartbeat slowed beneath her cheek, Seren could not shake what she had felt. Something was very wrong with the Alpha King, and he was hiding it from her. The days that followed were the happiest of Seren's life. Varun was attentive, affectionate, refusing to let her out of his sight for long. They took meals together, walked the castle gardens together, spent their nights tangled in each other's arms. The court whispered, but differently now. They whispered about the shadow blood who had somehow enchanted their king. They whispered about how he looked at her as if she were the only person in the world. But Seren could not forget what she had felt through the bond, that cold shadow lurking inside him, that hidden darkness he refused to acknowledge. She tried to broach the subject twice. Both times he changed the topic with practiced ease. Both times the bond flickered with that same fear before he locked it down. He was shielding part of himself from her. Even after the claiming, even now. Still, she did not push. Not yet. The investigation into Lysara continued, and Seren found herself drawn into the process. The court mages had discovered something significant. Traces of rare magic in the Great Hall. Not wolf magic. Not shadow magic. Something else entirely. Oh, it is called glamour weaving, the head mage explained during a council meeting Varun had insisted Seren attend. An ancient technique, nearly lost to time. It allows the caster to alter what others see and hear, to overlay an illusion so perfect that it cannot be distinguished from reality. So someone made the court see Varun choosing Lysara, Seren said slowly, when he actually chose me. Precisely, my queen. The mage nodded. The spell would have required immense power and very specific preparation. Whoever cast it knew exactly what they were doing. Varun leaned forward. Can you trace the caster? That is the difficulty, your majesty. The magic is not native to our kingdom. It bears the signature of... The mage hesitated. Forgive me. This will sound alarming. Speak. It bears the signature of the Vethran. The room went silent. Seren looked around, confused by the sudden tension. Who are the Vethran? She asked. Lord Aldrich answered, his face grave. An ancient bloodline of witches. They were hunted nearly to extinction 3 generations ago after they attempted to destroy the royal family with their magic. Hunted nearly to extinction, Varun repeated flatly. And yet, their magic is in my great hall. It would seem, the mage said carefully, that the Vethran are not as extinct as we believed. The meeting dissolved into arguments after that. Debates about what this meant, who could have accessed such power, whether other kingdoms were involved. Seren watched it all with growing unease. That night, she sat before her mirror, brushing her hair, when Varun entered through the connecting door. He looked exhausted. He always looked exhausted lately, though he tried to hide it. The council is panicking, he said, sinking into a chair. They want to seal the borders, question every magic user in the kingdom. Some are calling for your imprisonment again. Seren's hand stilled. My imprisonment? Shadow blood magic is rare. They think perhaps... He waved a hand. It does not matter what they think. I told them if anyone touches you, I will remove their hands personally. Despite everything, she smiled. My hero. I try. He smiled back, but it did not reach his eyes. She set down the brush and turned to face him. Varun, we need to talk about what I felt. The night of the claiming. His smile vanished. The shields went up immediately, the bond growing muffled between them. Seren, do not deflect. Do not change the subject. She crossed to him, kneeling before his chair so she could look directly into his face. I felt something inside you. Something cold. Something you are hiding from everyone, including me. His jaw clenched. It is nothing you need to worry about. We are bonded mates. Everything about you concerns me. She took his hands. They were cold. Colder than they should be. Now that she thought about it, they were always cold. Please, whatever it is, let me help. For a long moment, he said nothing. The shields between them trembled, as if he were fighting an internal battle. She felt his fear, his shame, his desperate desire to protect her from something. "You cannot help," he said finally. His voice was hollow. "No one can. Varun, there is a curse on my bloodline." The words came out flat, resigned. "It has afflicted every king of Valdron for 3 generations. My father had it, his father before him, and now I have it." Saren's blood went cold. "What kind of curse?" He pulled his hands from hers. Slowly, deliberately, he unbuttoned his shirt and drew it open. Saren gasped. There, spreading across his chest like frost on a window, were dark veins. Not blue or purple like normal veins. Black. They radiated outward from his heart in a web of corruption, disappearing beneath the waistband of his trousers, climbing up toward his throat. "It is killing me," Varun said quietly. "Slowly, year by year. The curse drains our life force, our warmth, our very essence. My father died at 42, his father at 38. He met her eyes and she saw the truth he had been hiding. I have perhaps 5 years left, maybe less." "No." The word tore from her throat. "No. There must be a way to break it. A cure, a counterspell, something. Do you think my ancestors did not search?" His voice was gentle but final. "Every healer, every mage, every witch in 5 kingdoms has tried. The curse was cast by Vethran magic, and until tonight, we believe the Vethran were nearly extinct." The realization hit her like a blow. The Vethran magic in the Great Hall, the curse on his bloodline, the glamour that had driven her away. It was all connected. "Someone did not want us together," she breathed. "Someone who knows about the curse. Someone who is still practicing Vethran magic." Varen nodded slowly. "And whoever they are, they wanted you gone. They wanted me alone. Weakened." His blackened veins seemed to pulse in the candlelight. "The question is why?" A knock at the door interrupted them. Lord Aldrich's voice, urgent and strained. "Your Majesty, you must come immediately. It is the Lady Lysara. She is gone." Seren and Varun exchanged a look. "Gone?" Varun demanded. "She was under guard." "The guards are dead, Your Majesty. And there is a message, written on the wall, in blood." Varun was on his feet instantly, rebuttoning his shirt. "What does it say?" Aldrich's voice trembled. "It says, the shadow blood cannot save him. Nothing can." The hunt for Lysara consumed the next week. Every tracker in Valdron was deployed. Every border was watched. Every whisper of golden hair or pale blue eyes was investigated. But she had vanished as thoroughly as Seren once had, and no trail emerged. Meanwhile, Varen grew weaker. Seren watched it happen with helpless fury. The black veins spread higher each day, creeping up his throat like fingers of shadow. His skin grew colder. His appetite diminished. Some mornings he could barely rise from bed before exhaustion claimed him again. Yet he refused to rest. He attended every council meeting, led every search party, pushed his failing body far past its limits. When Seren begged him to slow down, he simply shook his head. "Time is the one thing I cannot afford to waste," he said. "Not anymore." The court noticed. Of course they noticed. Whispers spread about the king's deteriorating health, about the curse everyone had pretended did not exist for generations. Some nobles began positioning themselves for succession. Others fled to country estates, unwilling to be present when the inevitable occurred. Lord Aldrich remained loyal, but even his steadfast presence could not mask the growing despair. "The physicians say weeks," he told Seren privately one evening. "Perhaps a month, if the gods are merciful. The curse is accelerating faster than any previous generation." "Why?" Seren demanded. "Why now?" "We do not know. Something has changed. Something is feeding the curse, making it stronger." Aldrich's weathered face was grim. "Some believe it is the stress of recent events. Others believe..." "Believe what?" He hesitated. Others believe it is you, my queen. That shadow blood magic is somehow incompatible with the curse, that your bond is hastening his death. The words struck her like a physical blow. She staggered back, hand flying to her throat where Varun's claiming mark still tingled. That cannot be true. I do not believe it is. But you asked, and I will not lie to you. Aldrich bowed. The king loves you. Whatever time he has left, he wants to spend it with you. Do not let the court's poison take that from either of you. That night, Seren lay awake long after Varun fell into fitful sleep beside her. Through the bond, she felt his pain. The constant, grinding agony he hid from everyone, including her. The cold spreading through his veins like winter consuming a dying forest. She had only just found him. She could not lose him. Not like this. There must be a way, she whispered into the darkness. There must be. The shadows in the room stirred at her voice. They always responded to her emotions, growing restless when she was distressed, calm when she was at peace. But tonight, they did something different. They whispered back. Seren sat up, heart pounding. The shadows along the walls were moving, writhing, forming shapes that almost looked like letters. Find the hollow. Find the truth. Find what was taken. What does that mean? She breathed. What hollow? What truth? But the shadows had gone still again, silent as death. Seren looked down at Varun's sleeping form. The black veins were visible even in the darkness, pulsing faintly with each labored heartbeat. Find what was taken. She did not understand, but she knew someone who might. At dawn, she slipped from the bed, dressed quickly, and made her way to the castle dungeons. Not to the cells where Lysara had been kept, but deeper. To the oldest part of the castle, where prisoners of a different sort had once been held. The witch's chamber. Every castle in the 5 kingdoms had one, a room where captured magic users had been interrogated during the Great Purges. Most had been sealed and forgotten, but Seren had learned from the court mages that Valdron's chamber still contained something valuable: records, confessions. The last words of dying witches who had cursed their captors with their final breaths. The door was warded, but shadow magic slipped through wards like water through fingers. Seren stepped into the darkness beyond and felt her power surge. This place remembered her kind. Shelves lined the walls, crammed with scrolls and bound books, and loose papers yellowed with age. Seren moved among them, searching for anything that mentioned the curse on the royal bloodline. It took hours, but finally, in a crumbling journal bound in black leather, she found it. The confession of a Vethran witch named Morvain, captured and executed 3 generations ago, the same generation the curse had begun. Seren read the cramped handwriting with growing horror. They killed my daughter, the king's men. They killed her for nothing more than existing. So I took from him what he took from me. I cursed his blood. Every king of his line will feel what I felt. The cold of loss, the darkness of grief, the slow, creeping death of watching everything you love slip away. But curses must have anchors, and I am clever. I hid the anchor where no one will ever find it, in the hollow beneath the old temple, in the bones of my murdered child. Break the anchor, and the curse will break. But first, you must find her. First, you must find what they took from me and buried in shame. Seren's hands trembled as she closed the journal. An anchor. The curse had an anchor. A physical object that sustained it across generations, and she knew where it was. She had to tell Varun. She had to show him this. But when she emerged from the dungeons and raced back to their chambers, she found chaos waiting. Varun was convulsing on the floor. Black veins had spread across his entire face. His eyes were open but unseeing, rolled back in his head. And standing over him, having somehow bypassed every guard and ward in the castle, was Lysara. Too late. Lysara said sweetly. You are always too late, Shadow Blood. Seren felt her power explode outward, shadows surging toward the other woman with killing intent. But Lysara simply laughed and vanished in a flash of golden light. Varun went still. Seren dropped to her knees beside him, pressing her hands to his chest, feeling for a heartbeat. It was there. Weak. Thready. But there. Guards! She screamed. Healers! Anyone! But even as people came running, even as the castle erupted into fresh panic, Seren knew the truth. Time had run out. If she did not find that anchor and destroy it, Varun would die, and Lysara would win. The healers could do nothing. They stabilized Varun, kept his heart beating, but the curse had progressed too far. The black veins now covered his entire body, a web of corruption visible even through his clothing. His skin was ice cold. His breath came in shallow, rattling gasps. He did not wake. Hours, the chief healer told Seren, unable to meet her eyes. Perhaps until dawn. I am sorry, my queen. There is nothing more we can do. Seren did not weep. There was no time for weeping. Oh, Lord Aldrich, she said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. I need horses, soldiers, and a guide who knows the location of the old temple. Aldrich stared at her. The old temple? My queen, that place has been abandoned for generations. It lies in the heart of the Thornwood, a full day's ride from here. By the time you return, he will be dead. I know. Seren looked at Varen's motionless form, memorizing every line of his face. But I found something. A confession from the witch who cast the original curse. There is an anchor. A physical object sustaining the curse across generations. If I can find it and destroy it. You can break the curse, Aldrich finished slowly. But my queen, even if this is true, a day's ride there and a day's ride back, then I will not ride. Seren turned to face him fully. I am a shadow blood, Lord Aldrich. I can travel through darkness itself. What takes horses a day takes me hours. The Thornwood is vast, so I cannot cover the entire distance instantly, but I will be faster than any horse. The Thornwood is dangerous. The old temple is said to be guarded by... I do not care what guards it. Her voice cracked. I will not watch him die. I will not accept that the curse wins. Varen tore his kingdom apart to find me. The least I can do is walk into darkness to save him. Aldrich studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. The temple lies 3 leagues north of where the Thornwood meets the Silver River. There is a hollow beneath the altar where the old priests used to hide sacred relics. If the anchor is anywhere, it will be there. Seren committed the directions to memory. Then she crossed to Varen's bedside and pressed a kiss to his frozen lips. Wait for me, she whispered against his mouth. I am coming back, and I am bringing your life with me. The shadows rose at her command, wrapping around her like a cloak. Through the bond, she felt Varen's fading presence, a candle guttering in the wind. She stepped into the darkness and let it carry her away. The journey through shadow was disorienting. Seren had never traveled this far this fast. The darkness pressed against her from all sides, whispering secrets she could not understand, showing her glimpses of places and times that made no sense. But she held tight to the bond, that thin, fragile thread connecting her to Varun. As long as she could feel it, he was alive. As long as it pulled her forward, she knew where to go. She emerged in the Thornwood as the sun was setting. The forest was ancient, the trees so vast their canopies blocked out the sky. No birdsong, no animal sounds, just silence, heavy and watchful. The old temple was exactly where Aldrich had described, a crumbling structure of black stone, half consumed by centuries of growth. Vines crawled over the walls. The roof had long since collapsed. But the altar remained, a massive slab of obsidian that seemed to drink the fading light. Seren approached carefully. Her shadow magic pulsed with warning. Something was here. Something that did not want her to succeed. "I know you are watching, Lysara," she called into the twilight. "I know you are Vethrin. I know you have been manipulating everything from the beginning." Laughter echoed through the ruins. And then Lysara stepped from behind a broken pillar, her golden hair loose around her shoulders, her pale eyes gleaming with triumph. "Clever shadow blood. You figured it out faster than I expected." She clapped mockingly. "Yes, I am Vethrin, the last of my line. My grandmother cast the curse that has been killing Valdron's kings for 3 generations, and I have been nurturing it, strengthening it, waiting for the perfect moment to claim my revenge." "Revenge for what?" "For everything." Lysara's composure cracked, revealing the rage beneath. "Your precious kingdom hunted us nearly to extinction, murdered our children, burned our homes. My grandmother died in those purges. My mother spent her entire life hiding, terrified, unable to use the gifts she was born with." Her voice shook. "I was supposed to hide too, to let the curse do its slow work over the generations. But then I saw an opportunity." "Me," Seren breathed. "You, the shadow blood the king fell in love with." "I could not believe my luck. I cast the glamour to make you see him choosing another. I knew your kind. I knew you would run rather than fight. And I knew that losing you would accelerate the curse beyond anything nature could accomplish." Seren's blood went cold. "The bond. You knew our bond would make the curse stronger." "Love is always the most powerful fuel for destruction." Lysara smiled. "The more he loved you, the faster he died. And when you returned, when he claimed you fully, the curse entered its final stage. He will be dead by midnight, and I will finally have my vengeance." "No." Seren's shadows exploded outward. "I will destroy the anchor. I will break the curse. And then I will make you pay for everything you have done." Lysara's smile did not waver. "The anchor is not here." "Foolish girl. Did you think I would leave it unguarded in an obvious location? I moved it years ago. It rests in a place you will never find, and without it." "You are lying." "Am I?" Lysara spread her hands. "Search the hollow. Search the entire temple. You will find nothing but dust and bones." Seren's heart sank. She reached out with her shadow magic, probing the hollow beneath the altar. Empty. Just as Lysara said. But then she felt something else. A whisper at the edge of her consciousness. A pull she had felt once before. "The bones of my murdered child." The anchor was not in the hollow. The anchor was the bones themselves. And those bones? Seren looked at Lysara. Really looked at her. At the locket around her throat. At the way her hand kept drifting to touch it. "Your grandmother," Seren said slowly. "The witch who cast the curse. She hid the anchor in her daughter's remains. Your mother's bones." Lysara's smile flickered. "You carry them with you, in that locket. You have been feeding the curse directly this entire time. How did you—" Seren did not let her finish. The shadows struck with all the force she could muster, wrapping around Lysara's throat, pinning her arms, tearing the locket from her neck. Lysara screamed, "No, you cannot! Those are all I have left of her." "Then you should have thought of that before you used her to murder innocent men." Seren held the locket in her palm. Through the metal she could feel the curse pulsing. Dark, ancient, hungry. She closed her eyes and let her shadow magic pour into it. The two forces collided with cataclysmic force. Seren felt herself being torn apart, her magic battling the curse for dominance. Pain like she had never known ripped through her body. She heard Lysara screaming, felt the temple shaking, saw light and darkness warring around her in a maelstrom of power. But she held on. For Varun, for their bond, for the life they had only just begun to build together. With a final desperate surge, she poured everything she had into the locket. The anchor shattered, the curse broke, and Seren collapsed into darkness. She woke to warmth. That was the first thing Seren noticed. Warmth surrounding her, pressing against her skin, chasing away the cold that had seeped into her bones. She was lying in a bed, a familiar bed. The sheets smelled like lavender and something masculine and safe. Home. She was home. She opened her eyes. Varun was sitting beside her, very much alive. The black veins were gone. His skin had color again. His gray eyes were clear, focused, and filled with more emotion than she had ever seen in them. "You came back to me," he said. His voice broke on the words. Seren reached up to touch his face, needing to confirm he was real. His skin was warm beneath her fingers, warm in a way it had never been before. "The curse," she whispered. "Broken." He caught her hand and pressed it to his chest, over his heart. She felt it beating strong and steady. The moment the anchor shattered, I felt it lift. 3 generations of darkness, just gone. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I thought I had lost you. When I collapsed, I thought, you nearly died." His jaw tightened. "Lord Aldrich sent soldiers after you when you did not return by dawn. They found you in the ruins of the temple, unconscious, barely breathing. You have been asleep for 3 days. 3 days? 3 days of me sitting here, waiting, praying, and bargaining with every god I could name." He leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. "Do not ever do that to me again." "You tore your kingdom apart to find me," she reminded him softly. "I merely walked into darkness to save you. It seemed only fair." He laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was bright and warm, nothing like the cold, controlled king she had first met. The curse had been killing more than his body, she realized. It had been killing his joy. "Lysera?" she asked. His expression darkened. "Dead. Whatever you did to destroy the anchor also destroyed her. The soldiers found her body in the temple ruins, or what remained of it." Seren should have felt something. Guilt, perhaps. Horror at having taken a life. But Lysara had nearly killed the man she loved, had manipulated her, tormented her, and used ancient magic to tear them apart. "I cannot mourn her," she admitted. "Nor can I." Varun helped her sit up, propping pillows behind her. "There is more news. While you slept, we investigated Lysara's chambers more thoroughly. We found letters, correspondences with others who shared her Vethran blood." Seren's stomach dropped. She was not the last. "No, but the others are few, scattered and now exposed. We will find them, and we will ensure they never threaten our kingdom again." He paused. "Though I have been thinking, perhaps the answer is not more hunting. Perhaps the answer is offering them a place in society, a chance to use their gifts openly under supervision, the way the old kingdoms once did before the purges." "You would do that? After everything?" Lysara's rage was born from persecution, from generations of hiding and fear. "If we continue the cycle, we will only create more like her." He took her hand. "You taught me that, Seren. Your shadow magic is not a curse. It is a gift. And I suspect Vethran magic could be the same, in the right hands." She studied him. This man who had chosen her when the world said she was unworthy. This man who had torn his kingdom apart to find her and was now proposing to reshape that kingdom entirely. "I love you," she said. His smile was radiant. "I know. I felt it through the bond the moment you shattered that anchor. You poured everything you are into saving me." He kissed her knuckles. "I love you too. More than I have words to express. More than I knew was possible." "Then show me," she whispered. He did. Their reunion was different from their first claiming. gentler, more reverent. They had nearly lost each other twice now, and every touch felt precious, every kiss a prayer of gratitude. When they finally lay tangled together, sated and peaceful, Seren felt the bond between them humming with contentment. "What happens now?" she asked, tracing idle patterns on his chest. "Now we rebuild. The kingdom has been in chaos for months. There are alliances to repair, nobles to reassure, borders to secure." He paused. "And there is the matter of an heir." Seren looked up at him. "An heir?" "The curse affected fertility as well. My father sired only me after decades of trying. His father had similar struggles." Varen's hand settled on her stomach. "But the curse is broken now, and I find myself very eager to see what the future holds." Heat bloomed in her cheeks. "We have only been truly together for a few weeks." "Then we have time." He kissed her forehead. "All the time in the world, thanks to you." She nestled closer, listening to his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive. "No more hiding," she murmured. "No more running. I am done with shadows." "You are shadow itself," he reminded her gently. "You cannot be done with what you are." "Then no more running into shadows alone. Whatever comes next, we face it together." "Together," he agreed. "Always." 1 year later, the great hall of Valdron was full once more. But this time, the occasion was not a mating ceremony fraught with deception. It was a celebration. Seren stood on the same platform where she had once watched her world shatter, but everything was different now. She wore a gown of deep violet, the color of twilight, her dark hair crowned with silver. In her arms, bundled in soft blankets, was a baby with his father's gray eyes and his mother's shadow-touched skin. Prince Corvin, born 3 months ago, healthy and strong, with a cry that could rattle windows and a grip that refused to let go of anything he grasped. Just like his father, Varun stood beside her, resplendent in black and silver, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back. The nobles who had once whispered about the Shadow Blood Queen now bowed low before her. The ones who had positioned themselves for succession had quietly retreated to their estates, their schemes abandoned. The kingdom had healed, and so had its king. "Lords and ladies of Valdron," Varun announced, his voice carrying through the hall. 1 year ago, I stood in this very place and made the worst mistake of my life. I let deception drive away the woman I loved. I spent 3 months in darkness, searching for her, tearing apart everything I had built because nothing mattered without her. Seren felt his emotion through the bond. Not pain, not anymore. But the memory of it transformed into something fiercer. Today, I stand here with her by my side. My queen, my mate, the mother of my son, the woman who walked into death itself to save me. He turned to face her, and the love in his eyes made her breath catch. "Seren, I chose you the moment I saw you. I will keep choosing you every day for the rest of our lives. And I will spend every one of those days grateful that you chose me in return." The hall erupted in applause. Genuine applause this time, not the polite pretense of a court that did not approve. In the year since the curse had broken, Seren had won them over. Not with politics or manipulation, but with the same quiet strength that had saved their king. She had established healing centers throughout the kingdom, places where shadowbloods and other marginalized magic users could practice their gifts openly. She had worked with the council to reform the laws that had driven the Vethran underground, replacing persecution with regulation. She had even tracked down several of Lysara's scattered kin and offered them amnesty in exchange for service to the crown. Some had accepted, others had fled. But the cycle of vengeance had been broken, just as surely as the curse. After the celebration, after the toasts and the dancing and the endless congratulations, Seren and Varun retreated to their chambers. Corvin had been handed off to his nursemaid, and for the first time in weeks, they were alone. Tired? Varun asked, helping her out of her elaborate gown. Exhausted, she admitted, but happy. So unbearably happy that it frightens me sometimes. Frightens you? I spent so long expecting loss, expecting rejection, expecting the good things to be taken away. She turned to face him, letting him see her vulnerability. Part of me still waits for the other shoe to drop, for something to shatter this peace we have built. Varun cupped her face in his warm hands. Warm. She would never stop marveling at that. The curse is broken, he said quietly. Lysara is gone. The Vethrin are scattered and contained. Our son is healthy. Our kingdom is at peace. He kissed her softly. There is no other shoe, Seren. There is only this. Only us. Only the life we have earned. She leaned into him, breathing in his scent. No more cold. No more hidden darkness. Just him. Her mate. Her king. Her home. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. More than kingdoms. More than crowns. More than my own life. He pulled her close. You are everything I never knew I was missing, and I am never letting you go. They stood together in the moonlight streaming through the window, the shadows dancing peacefully around them. Two people who had found each other against impossible odds, two hearts that had been shattered and remade stronger. The mating ceremony had once been the end of everything. Now it was only the beginning. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments what part moved you most. I read every single one, and your words mean more than you know. She felt him choose another mate, so she vanished, and the Alpha King tore his kingdom apart to find her. But what she saw that night was a lie, and what she discovered when she returned was a truth that changed everything. Two souls hiding, two hearts breaking, and a love powerful enough to shatter a curse that had endured for generations. Sometimes the shadows are not where we hide. Sometimes they are how we find our way home.